Hi, Phil Precy here, and today we're going to talk about vaping, and while we're at it, we'll talk a bit about smoking too. I'm going to be really upfront with you. I'm making this video because I don't want you to smoke, and I don't want you to vape either. It's as simple as that. This isn't a just say no video. I don't expect to be able to tell you what to do, but I want to look at the facts with you, and I want you to make up your own mind. So the health side of this is relevant, and yet we're going to talk about that. But I want to talk about the business side of things and how the big tobacco companies part you with your money. So before we talk about vaping, let's start by looking at smoking, and specifically the key issue, which is nicotine delivery and revenue. So smoking, as a global industry, it's still big business, despite the fact that pretty much everyone knows that smoking kills you in a painful and disgusting way. The tobacco industry is still a $900 billion market worldwide. That's in US dollars. What's probably more surprising is that despite the market value of tobacco dipping significantly between 2014 and 2016, from about 850 billion to about 780 billion, which is a huge amount of money, like $70 billion worldwide, the tobacco industry started to recover in 2017. The growth forecasts for tobacco are strong, and Statista forecasts that the tobacco industry will be worth more than $1 trillion worldwide in just 3 years' time. So please understand that this is big business, and the motivation to sell tobacco products and nicotine delivery is purely financial. Now, big tobacco companies have been really shady for a very long time. They worked very hard to suppress the truth behind the medical impact of smoking, and in different countries around the world, they placed their products in cartoons, they got sports endorsements, they even got doctors and dentists to front advertising campaigns to reassure us that it was healthy and relatively harmless to smoke and a good thing to do to relax. But the impact of smoking globally has been horrific for humanity. The World Health Organization published these facts on smoking on the 24th of May 2022. We tend to overlook how toxic smoking actually is. It doesn't just harm the smoker, it actually poisons the people who are stood near the smoker. 1.2 million people die every year from the effects of passive smoking. And globally, this is a big problem for men. Women have got their heads around this, and internationally, 7.8% of women smoke versus 36.7% of men. You can say what you like about men, but we can be stupid. And big tobacco knew pretty early on that they were killing people. Industry documents showed that they knew about this in the 1950s. An explicit internal industry document from 1961 stated very clearly that they knew that cigarettes are cancer-causing, cancer-promoting, and poisonous. In January 1954, the big tobacco giants conspired to deceive the public by publishing information that they knew to be false. It was called the Frank Statement to Cigarette Smokers. The purpose of the advertisement was to question research findings that implicated smoking as a cause of cancer, and it promised smokers that their cigarettes were safe. They pledged to support impartial research to investigate allegations that smoking was harmful to human health. Of course, they didn't do that. Well, these industry giants weren't going to just close the doors on their billions of dollars of global revenue, were they? No, the profits came first. Now, we all have the vague notion and some understanding that the tobacco companies are not good guys. We know now that they didn't play it straight. It's worth letting you know how tobacco companies have traditionally viewed young people, though. The fragile, developing self-image of the young person needs all the support and enhancement it can get. This is simple. They see teenagers as not shrewd enough to see through them, first and foremost, and they perceive that a large portion of teenagers are emotionally insecure, vulnerable, and need to feel more adult and more reassured about themselves. Psychologically, this is where they pitch to and where they've always pitched to. Smoking may appear to enhance that self-image in a variety of ways. So they made smoking into a rite of passage, the thing that you did coming of age. This self-image enhancement effect has traditionally been a strong, proportional theme for cigarette brands and should continue to be emphasized. But it goes further than that. Aside from exploiting the insecurities of youth, they went aggressively after children and young people. In view of the need to reverse the preference for Marlboro amongst young smokers, I wonder whether comic strip type copy might get a much higher readership amongst young people than any other type of copy. By the early 1980s, industry memos began to show panic that young people weren't taking up smoking at the same rate that they previously had. We will no longer be able to rely on a rapidly increasing pool of teenagers from which to replace smokers lost through normal attrition. What the? Because of our high share of the market amongst the young smokers, Philip Morris will suffer more than other companies from the decline in the number of teenage smokers. Okay, let's put to one side the fact that they're talking about a product that kills their customers and causes attrition. Let's even overlook the fact that they acknowledged that their customer base was teen smokers. Let's see this from their point of view. Why is this important? Today's teenager is tomorrow's potential regular customer. It is important to know as much as possible about teenage smoking patterns and attitudes. This is from cigarette giant Philip Morris. Long after adolescent preoccupation with self-image has subsided, the cigarette will even preempt food in times of scarcity on the smoker's priority list. So the bottom line is, they knew certain things about their product. They know that it's toxic. They know that it's poison. They know that some teenagers have insecurities and self-image issues. They view all teens pretty much the same way, and they're willing to exploit the insecurities of puberty and adolescence. They've been knowingly guilty of aggressively targeting your age group. And they know that if they capture you as a teenager, they'll keep you as an adult, even if it kills you, because they know, as the final kicker, that nicotine is addictive. Even if you're hungry and you're poor, you'll need to smoke more than you need to eat. What kind of an evil product is that? This is from the University of California, San Francisco. Nicotine has been proven to be as addictive as cocaine and heroin, and may even be more addictive. Many people who smoke develop nicotine dependence, which makes quitting all the harder, especially when they try to stop smoking on their own. In fact, 70% of smokers report wanting to quit, but many wait until they develop a significant tobacco-related disease, such as heart disease, cancer, or a stroke. When the product started to steadily fall into decline, and smoking is currently declining at about 14% per year in the UK, they needed something else to sell the same addiction to keep that money rolling in. And smoking's a massive cash cow. We're talking huge glass buildings, private jets, $1 million salaries. I looked at the CEO of one big tobacco company and he's paid more than $7.5 million a year and has a net worth in the region of $50 million. So uptake of smoking in schools is not huge. There are smokers, but certainly the costs of smoking are prohibitive for most young people. It's far too expensive. And that, combined with a better and more informed perspective, smoking certainly seems a lot less cool than it used to be. And maybe the modern teenager is more savvy, switched on, and confident, and isn't going to fall for the tricks that the previous generation did. But now we're talking about vaping, and there's some big problems with vaping. Essentially, vaping is just another way to get people hooked on nicotine. And the research around vaping suggests that it's better for you than smoking, not as bad for you. So it's a good way to quit smoking, but there's no evidence to suggest that it's harmless. And in the United States, there are reports of lung infections and even fatal lung infections that have occurred as a result of vaping. If we go to the scientific research, it tells us some things pretty consistently. Vaping is replacing smoking in teenage groups, and it is growing in popularity rapidly. And in fact, the number of people vaping between the ages of 11 and 18 has doubled in the UK since last year. Nicotine is still a toxin. It's poisonous, and changing the delivery system, e-cigarettes versus combustible cigarettes, won't change that. Any addiction is expensive because it creates dependency and something that you feel that you have to buy no matter whether you have the money for it or you don't. And crucially, vaping hasn't existed long enough for us to know the true effects in what's called a longitudinal study. That is, we can say that smoking causes cancer and shortens your life because we've seen millions of cases from teenagers all the way through until death. We haven't had the opportunity to look at vaping in the same way. And almost every academic paper evaluating the risks around vaping underlines the same lack of knowledge and understanding. So who are you going to trust with that? These guys? They only wanted your money from smoking, and now they only want your money from vaping, whether it kills you or not. Remember, you don't need to vape if you don't need to quit. Thanks for watching. I'm Phil Priestley. I'll see you in another video real soon. Thank you. Bye bye.